The wind howled across the Bonefield Plains, kicking up clouds of grey dust that stung Cale's eyes. He pulled his scarf tighter around his face, squinting at the horizon. At 19, Cale was lean, with calloused hands and a knack for finding trouble. Or, as he'd say, trouble found him. Another day, another pile of nothing, he muttered, kicking a pebble. He'd been scavenging the plains for weeks, hoping to unearth something valuable. Old coins, a rusted blade, anything to trade for a hot meal. The plains were a graveyard of forgotten wars, littered with broken armor and whispered legends. Most folks avoided it. Cale wasn't most folks. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of fire, Cale's boot struck something hard. He knelt, brushing away the dirt. A glint of metal caught his eye. His heart skipped. "Come on, don't be another spoon," he said, half laughing. He dug faster, revealing a small tarnished disc, no bigger than his palm. It was a compass, its glass cracked, its needle frozen. Strange symbols were etched along its rim, glowing faintly in the twilight. Cale turned it over, frowning. "What in Erendor's name are you?" The needle twitched. Not toward north, but southwest, toward the jagged peaks of the Fangspire Mountains. He tapped the glass. The needle held firm. Broken, huh? Figures. But something about it felt alive. Warm, almost. He pocketed the compass and stood, dusting off his knees. That's when he heard it, a low hum, like a distant swarm of bees. The ground trembled. Cale spun around, scanning the plains. Nothing but dust and shadows, yet the hum grew louder, closer. His hand drifted to the dagger at his belt. "Who's there?" he called, voice steady, despite the prickle of fear. No answer. The hum stopped. Silence pressed in, heavy and wrong. Then, from the haze, a figure emerged. A cloaked rider on a skeletal horse, eyes glinting like polished obsidian. "You have something that doesn't belong to you," the rider rasped, voice like gravel. "Give it to me." Cale's grip tightened on his dagger. "Find your own junk," he shot back, heart pounding. The rider's horse snorted, steam curling from its nostrils. Cale didn't wait for a reply. He bolted, legs pumping, the compass bouncing in his pocket behind him. The rider laughed. A sound that promised this was only the beginning. Cale didn't stop running until the Bonefield Plains gave way to the cobbled streets of Dust Hollow, a ramshackle town clinging to the edge of nowhere. Lanterns flickered above market stalls, casting warm light on merchants hawking spices, cloth, and questionable potions. Cale leaned against a wall, catching his breath. The compass sat heavy in his pocket, its warmth pulsing like a heartbeat. "Who was that creep?" he muttered, glancing over his shoulder. The rider hadn't followed. At least, not yet. Cale needed answers, and Dust Hollow's market was the place to find them, or so he hoped. He weaved through the crowd, dodging a man juggling apples and a woman shouting about genuine dragon teeth. At the edge of the market, tucked between a baker's stall and a cart of wilted vegetables, sat a tiny shop with a sign that read, "Mira's Oddities." If anyone could identify the compass, it was Mira inside. The shop smelled of sage and old books. Shelves sagged under the weight of strange trinkets, glass orbs, bone carvings, a stuffed crow that Kyle swore was watching him. Behind the counter stood Mira, a girl about his age with ink-thrack hair and eyes that seemed to see right through him. She was polishing a brass telescope, humming softly. "Back so soon, Cale," she said without looking up. "Find another priceless tin cup?" Cale grinned, leaning on the counter. "Hilarious, I've got something real this time." He pulled out the compass and set it down. The symbols along its rim flickered, brighter now. Mira's humming stopped. She picked it up, her brow furrowing. "Where'd you get this?" she asked, voice low. "Bonefield Plains, some cloaked lunatic tried to kill me for it." "Know what it is?" Mira turned the compass over, tracing the symbols with her finger. "These are Old Erendorian, pre-cataclysm, maybe older. This isn't just a compass, Cale, it's a key." She met his gaze, her eyes sharp. "And if someone's after it, you're in deeper trouble than usual." Cale snorted, though his stomach twisted. "Great. A key to what?" "No idea," Mira admitted, setting the compass down. "But I know someone who might. Old Taran, out in the Fangspires. He's a hermit, half mad, but he knows more about ancient relics than anyone." "The Fangspires?" Cale groaned. "That's a week's trek through bandit country." Mira smirked. "Scared? Practical?" he shot back. He glanced at the compass. The needle still pointed southwest, toward the Fangspires. Coincidence? He doubted it. Before he could reply, the shop's door creaked open. A gust of cold air swept in, carrying the faint hum from the plains. Kale froze. Mira's hand slid under the counter, where she kept a crossbow. "Hide," she whispered. Kale didn't argue. He ducked behind a shelf, heart racing, as the sound of heavy boots filled the shop. Kale crouched behind the shelf, heart hammering. The stuffed crow on Mira's shelf seemed to stare at him, its glass eyes glinting in the dim light. Heavy boots thudded against the shop's wooden floor, each step deliberate. The air grew colder, thick with the same eerie hum Kale had heard on the plains. Mira stood at the counter, her hand hidden beneath it, fingers no doubt curled around her crossbow's grip. "Shop's closed," she said, voice steady as stone. "Come back tomorrow." The intruder didn't reply. Kale peeked through a gap in the shelves. A tall figure loomed in the doorway, cloaked in black, face shrouded by a hood. The same obsidian eyes as the rider gleamed beneath it. "The compass," the figure rasped, voice like wind over broken glass. "Where is it?" Kale's hand brushed the compass in his pocket. It pulsed, warmer now, almost burning. He gritted his teeth, willing it to stay quiet. Mira tilted her head, feigning confusion. "Compass? You mean that old junk in the back? 5 coppers, take your pick." The figure stepped closer, and the hum intensified, rattling the trinkets on the shelves. "Lies," it hissed. "I smell its power." A gloved hand reached out, fingers unnaturally long, curling like claws. Kale couldn't stay hidden. "Hey, ugly!" he shouted, leaping up and hurling a brass orb from the shelf. It struck the figure's shoulder, clanging to the floor. The figure barely flinched, turning its gaze on Kale. Those eyes, bottomless, hungry, locked onto him. Mira didn't hesitate. She yanked the crossbow free and fired. The bolt thudded into the figure's chest. It staggered, but no blood came. Instead, black smoke curled from the wound, and the hum became a screech. "Run!" Mira yelled, grabbing a satchel from under the counter. Kale bolted for the back door, Mira close behind. The figure roared, a sound that shook the walls, and lunged. They burst into the alley, the night swallowing them as the shop's windows shattered behind. "Who are you?" Kale panted, clutching the compass as they ran. Mira's eyes were fierce. "Someone who's not letting that thing get you." Kale's boots pounded the slick cobblestones of Dust Hollow's alleys, his breath ragged. The compass burned against his thigh, its pulse matching his heartbeat. Mira ran beside him, her satchel bouncing, crossbow still clutched in one hand. Behind them, the screeching hum tore through the night, closer now, like a storm breaking loose. "Any bright ideas?" Kale gasped, dodging a stack of crates. A shard of glass from Mira's shattered shop crunched underfoot, glinting in the moonlight. "Keep running," Mira snapped, her eyes scanning the alley. The narrow path twisted past overflowing bins and sagging rooftops, the air thick with the stench of rot and coal smoke. Dust Hollow's market lights faded behind them, swallowed by shadows. The hum surged, and Kale risked a glance back. The cloaked figure moved unnaturally fast, gliding over the ground, black smoke trailing from its chest where Mira's bolt had struck. Its eyes burned like twin coals. "That thing's not human," Kale muttered, stomach twisting. "Less talking, more sprinting." Mira yanked him around a corner. The alley dead-ended at a crumbling stone wall, twice Kale's height, topped with rusted spikes. Beyond it, the open plains stretched toward the Fangspire Mountains, their peaks jagged against the stars. "Trapped," Kale said, spinning to face the approaching figure. The compass thrummed, its needle jerking wildly. "This stupid thing's gonna get us killed!" Mira shoved her crossbow into her satchel and knelt, rummaging through it. "Not if I can help it." She pulled out a small vial filled with glowing blue liquid. Aether dust. Old recipe. Might buy us time. The figure rounded the corner, its cloak billowing like liquid night. "The compass!" it rasped, claws extending. Kale drew his dagger, useless as it felt. Mira smashed the vial against the ground. Blue light erupted and a shockwave of wind slammed the figure back, its screech splitting the air. "Climb!" Mira shouted, scrambling up the wall. Kale followed, heart pounding. As they dropped to the other side, the plains sprawling before them, he panted. "We need a plan." Mira's gaze fixed on the Fangspires. "We find Old Taryn. Now move." The bone-field plains stretched endless under a sky heavy with stars. Kale's legs ached as he trudged beside Mira. The Fangspire Mountains looming closer, their peaks like broken teeth. The air was crisp, carrying the faint tang of dust and something sharper. Magic, maybe. The compass in Kale's pocket hummed softly, its warmth a steady pulse against the night's chill. "Remind me why we're hiking to a mad hermit's hideout?" Kale said, kicking a pebble. His dagger swung at his belt, useless against whatever chased them. Mira adjusted her satchel, her crossbow slung across her back. Old Tarin knows relics. If anyone can read that compass, it's him. She glanced at Kale, her dark eyes catching the starlight. Unless you'd rather face Smokey back there, Kale snorted. Pass! The memory of the cloaked figure's coal-black eyes sent a shiver down his spine. The aether dust had slowed it, but for how long? He pulled out the compass, its cracked glass glinting. The needle pointed firmly toward the fang spires, its symbols glowing faintly. This thing's got a mind of its own. Mira leaned closer, frowning. Those symbols, they're shifting, like they're alive. She reached out, but the compass sparked, and she yanked her hand back. Okay, that's new. Great, Kale muttered, shoving it back in his pocket. A possessed trinket. Just what I needed. The plains were eerily quiet, broken only by the crunch of their boots and the compass's hum, which grew louder, weaving into a faint melody. Kale froze. You hear that? Mira nodded, her hand drifting to her crossbow. The melody wasn't just sound. It was words whispered in a language neither knew, curling through the air like smoke. The ground trembled faintly, and in the distance a flicker of blue light danced among the ruins scattered across the plains. Bandits, Kale whispered, gripping his dagger. Mira's eyes narrowed. Worse, those are aether echoes, old magic waking up. She met his gaze, her voice low. Your compass is calling something. Kale swallowed. What are we walking into? Before Mira could answer, the blue light flared and a shadow moved within it, tall, wrong, and coming their way. Elle's breath caught as the blue light pulsed across the bone-field plains, illuminating a tall, wavering shadow within the ether echoes. The compass in his pocket sang, a low, haunting melody that made his skin prickle. Whispers wove through the air, words in a tongue older than Erendor, tugging at his mind like forgotten dreams. Tell me that's just a really tall bandit, Kale whispered, dagger in hand, its blade catching the eerie glow. Mira's crossbow was already raised, her eyes locked on the shadow. It's not, she said, voice tight. Aether echoes don't just move like that. The light flickered and the shadow glided closer, its form shifting. Human one moment, something else the next. The compass's song grew louder, its needle spinning wildly. Kale yanked it out, cursing as it burned his fingers. Shut up, you stupid thing. The symbols along its rim flared, casting blue sparks that danced on the ground. The shadow paused, its head tilting as if listening. Then it spoke, a voice like wind through a ruined tower. You hold the key, it said. But you're not alone. Carl's stomach dropped. Not alone? What's that supposed to mean? He glanced at Mira, who shook her head, her crossbow steady. Keep it talking, she muttered, edging sideways toward a cluster of broken pillars half buried in the dirt. I've got an idea. Great, more secrets, Kale hissed, but he faced the shadow. Hey, creepy, want the compass? Come and get it. His voice cracked, but he held his ground, waving the glowing compass like a taunt. The shadow surged forward, faster than Kale expected, its form unraveling into tendrils of smoke. Mira fired her crossbow, the bolt passing harmlessly through it. Now, she shouted, tossing another vial of aether dust at the pillars. It shattered, and a blast of blue fire erupted, swallowing the shadow in a howling vortex. The whispers stopped. The light faded. Kale coughed, waving away dust. Did we win? Mira grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the fang spires. Not even close. That was a warning. Something bigger's coming. Behind them the plains hummed again, softer but unmistakable. The Fang Spire Mountains loomed closer, their jagged peaks slicing through dawn's pale light. Kale and Mira trekked across the Bonefield Plains edge, where grass gave way to rocky scrubland. The air was sharp, smelling of flint and distant snow. Kale's legs burned, and the compass in his pocket hummed faintly, a nagging reminder of the shadow they'd barely escaped. Ever think about opening a bakery instead? Kale said, wiping sweat from his brow. Less running, more muffins. Mira smirked, her crossbow slung over her shoulder. You'd eat all the profits. She scanned the horizon, her satchel clinking with vials. We're close to the Fangspire trails. Tarin's hideout should be a day's climb. Kale pulled out the compass, its needles steady toward the mountains. The symbols glowed dimly, shifting like liquid. This thing's trouble, he muttered. Why's it picking me to ruin my life? Mira glanced at him, her expression softening. Maybe it's not ruining. Maybe it's choosing. She hesitated, then added, My dad used to say relics like that find people for a reason. You're not just a scavenger, Kale. Kale snorted, but her words stuck. Yeah, I'm a scavenger with great luck. He tucked the compass away, avoiding her gaze. The plane's hume had faded, but the air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. As they reached a narrow trail winding into the mountains, the ground crunched underfoot, littered with shards of ancient stone. Carvings, faint, weathered, marked the rocks, mirroring the compass's symbols. Kale froze. Mira, look at this. She knelt, tracing a carving. Old Erendorian. Same as the compass. This was a keeper's path. Her voice dropped. We're walking their road. A low rumble echoed from the cliffs above. Kale's hand flew to his dagger. Tell me that's thunder. Mira stood, crossbow ready. Not thunder. Dust trickled from the rocks, and a shape moved against the sunrise. A hulking figure, not human, with eyes like molten gold. Run or fight, Kale whispered, heart pounding. Mira's jaw tightened. Fight. We're done running. Night cloaked the bone-filled plains as Kale and Mira paused at the base of the Fangspire Mountains. Stars burned bright above, their light cold and unyielding. The air smelled of dry grass and stone, and the compass in Kale's pocket hummed gently, a faint lullaby against the silence. They'd outrun the ether echo's shadow, but the weight of it lingered. Kale slumped against a boulder, catching his breath. Ever wonder if we're just chasing our own graves? He said, half joking. His dagger glinted as he twirled it, more habit than threat. Mira sat cross-legged, checking her satchel's vials by starlight. Every day, she said, her voice calm but not dismissive. But graves don't hum like that compass. It's got a purpose. So do you. Her dark eyes flicked to him, sharp yet kind. Kale laughed, but it sounded hollow. Purpose. I'm a scavenger who tripped over a relic. Now I've got smoke monsters on my tail. He pulled out the compass, its symbols glowing faintly, shifting like ripples in water. Why me? Mira set a vial down, her fingers brushing the grass. My dad used to study aether relics, said they choose people who need them, people searching for something. She hesitated, then added, What you searching for, Kale? He froze, the question cutting deeper than he'd expected. A home? A name? Something more than dust and hunger? I don't know, he admitted, voice quieter. What if I'm not enough for whatever this is? Mira leaned forward, her gaze steady. You're enough to keep running. That's a start. She smirked. Besides, I'm here. You're not carrying this alone. Kale managed to grin, tucking the compass away. Lucky me, stuck with a know-it-all. A faint rustle broke the moment, twigs snapping in the dark. Mira's hand flew to her crossbow, Kale's to his dagger. The compass's hum sharpened, and a pair of golden eyes glowed from the shadows at the trail's edge. Company, Mira whispered, standing. Move quietly. Kyle's heart raced. So much for a break. The golden eyes glowed brighter, twin flames cutting through the Fangspire's shadowed foothills. Kale gripped his dagger, its blade trembling in his hand. The compass in his pocket buzzed like an angry wasp, its hum spiking with every rustle from the dark. Mira crouched beside him, crossbow aimed, her breath steady despite the chill creeping through the air. Any chance that's a friendly firefly? Kale whispered, his voice betraying a quiver. Mira's eyes didn't leave the shadows. Not unless fireflies growl, she said. A low, guttural rumble rolled from the darkness, vibrating the ground. The grass swayed as something heavy stalked closer, its form still hidden. The compass flared, its symbols casting a faint blue glow around Kyle's boots. He cursed under his breath, shoving it deeper into his pocket, but the light pulsed through the fabric. This thing's ratting us out. Quiet, Mira hissed, adjusting her aim. It's tracking the aether. We can't hide. She pulled a vial from her satchel, its liquid glinting faintly. When I say move, you move. The growl became a snarl, and the creature stepped into the starlight, a massive wolf-like beast, its fur matted with streaks of glowing blue like veins of aether. Its golden eyes locked onto Kale, and the compass's hum became a scream. Now! Mira shouted, hurling the vial. It shattered at the beast's paws, erupting in a cloud of sparking mist. The creature roared, rearing back, its claws slashing the air. Go! Mira grabbed Kale's arm, dragging him toward a rocky trail winding up the Fangspires. Kale stumbled, his heart pounding. What is that thing? He yelled, dodging a boulder as the beast's snarl echoed behind them. Aetherhound, Mira called, reloading her crossbow mid-run. Old Keeper's guardian. Your compass woke it. Fantastic, Kale panted. risking a glance back. The mist was clearing, and the hound's eyes burned through the haze, closing fast. The trail narrowed, cliffs rising on either side. Mira skidded to a stop, pointing to a faint cave mouth ahead. "There! Taran's hideout! Stay close," she added, as the hound's howl shook the stones. Kael's lungs burned as he sprinted toward the cave, the ether hound's snarls echoing off the Fangspire cliffs. The compass in his pocket screeched, its glow seeping through his cloak, painting the rocky trail blue. Mira ran ahead, her crossbow bouncing, her satchel nearly empty of vials. The cave mouth loomed, a dark gash in the stone, its edges carved with faded symbols that matched the compass. "Faster," Mira shouted, diving into the cave. Kael followed, stumbling as the hound's claws scraped the ground behind him. Its golden eyes blazed, its aether-laced fur sparking in the dawn light. The beast lunged, jaws snapping inches from Kael's heel. Inside, the cave was damp, smelling of moss and old secrets. Mira spun, firing a crossbow bolt. It struck the hound's shoulder, drawing a howl but barely slowing it. "This way!" she yelled, pulling Kael deeper into a narrow tunnel. The compass's hum vibrated the walls, dust raining down. "Great plan, trapping us," Kael panted, dagger useless in his grip. The hound's snarls grew louder, its bulk scraping the tunnel's sides. The tunnel opened into a cavern lit by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. Strange machines, rusted, whirring, lined the space, their gears etched with keeper symbols. At the center stood a grizzled old man, white-haired and wiry, holding a staff that crackled with blue energy. His eyes narrowed. "Who dares disturb my peace?" he barked, voice like gravel. The hound burst into the cavern and the man thrust his staff forward. A pulse of aether light slammed the beast back, pinning it to the wall with a yelp. Kael doubled over, gasping, "Taran, I hope." The old man glared, staff still raised. "You've brought trouble to my door, boy, and that," he pointed at the glowing compass in Kael's hand, "is no trinket. Speak, or I'd let the hound finish you." Mira stepped forward, crossbow lowered. "We need answers." The keeper's compass chose him. Taran's gaze softened, but only slightly. "Then you've just started a war." Outside, the hound's growl faded, but a deeper hum rose from the mountain itself. The cavern's crystals pulsed faintly, casting Taran's lined face in blue light. The old hermit leaned on his staff, its aether glow fading as the pinned aether hound whimpered, its golden eyes dimming. Kael clutched the compass, its hum syncing with the deeper rumble vibrating the Fangspire's stone walls. Mira stood close, crossbow ready, her gaze flicking between Taran and the tunnel. "Start talking, old man," Kael said, voice sharp despite his racing heart. "What's this war you're yapping about?" Taran's eyes narrowed, studying the compass. "That's no mere relic, boy. It's a keeper's compass, forged to bind the Aether's heart. It points to Erendor's lost sanctuaries, places of power." He stepped closer, voice low. "But it's also a beacon. You've woken things that should have stayed asleep." Kael snorted, though his stomach churned. "Like that overgrown dog?" He jerked a thumb at the hound. "Worse," Taran snapped. "The Cabal, shadow wielders who crave the Aether's secrets. They've hunted the compasses since the Cataclysm." He pointed at the glowing symbols. "Yours is the last. It chose you, but they'll kill to claim it." Mira frowned, brushing a symbol with her finger. "Chose him? Why Kael?" Taran shrugged, a grim smile tugging his lips. "Ask the Aether. It sees what we don't." He turned to a rusted machine, its gears whirring. "This sanctuary's waking, thanks to that compass. The Cabal will feel it." The mountain's hum grew louder, shaking dust from the ceiling. Kael's grip tightened on the compass, its needle spinning. "So, what? I'm stuck playing hero?" "You're stuck surviving," Taran said, grabbing a leather-bound book from a shelf. "The compass points to the next sanctuary. Find it, or the Cabal will. But beware. The Aether's power isn't kind." Mira's eyes widened. It's not just the mountain, is it?" Taran's face darkened. "No, it's waking." He shoved the book into Kyle's hands. "Go." The hound was just the start. A crack split the cavern wall and a cold wind howled through, carrying whispers of a familiar, rasping voice. The cavern shuddered as the crack in the wall widened, spilling a gust of icy wind. Kael clutched the compass, its hume a frantic wail, its symbols blazing through his fingers. The rasping voice slithered from the dark, the same gravelly tone from the plains. "The compass," it hissed. "Give it to me." "Not a chance," Kael yelled, shoving Taran's book into his cloak. Mira raised her crossbow, her last bolt gleaming, while Taran gripped his staff, aether sparks dancing along its tip. The aether hound, still pinned, growled weakly, its eyes flaring, shadows poured through the crack, cloaked figures, their eyes glinting like polished obsidian. The Cabal, their leader, tall and gaunt, stepped forward, black smoke curling from its frame. "You cannot run," it rasped, claws extending. "Watch me," Kale snapped, but his voice shook. The compass burned, its needle jerking toward a tunnel at the cavern's rear. Taran thrust his staff forward, unleashing a wave of blue light. The Cabal leader staggered, but its followers surged, their cloaks dissolving into tendrils of smoke. "Go!" Taran roared, slamming his staff again. "The tunnel leads to the next sanctuary." Mira fired her bolt, piercing a Cabal's shoulder. It screeched, smoke bleeding from the wound. "Kale, move!" she shouted, sprinting for the tunnel. Kale followed, the book heavy against his chest, the compass screaming. The tunnel was tight, its walls slick with moss. Behind them, Taran's light flared, then dimmed, his grunts mixing with the Cabal's hisses. Kale's heart sank. "He's not making it, is he?" Mira snapped, dodging a falling rock as the mountain quaked. The tunnel sloped upward, the air growing colder. The compass's glow lit their path, its needle steady now. They burst onto a cliffside ledge overlooking the fang spires, dawn's light breaking over the peaks. The hum faded, but the Cabal's screeches echoed below. Mira panted, reloading her crossbow. "They're coming." Kale opened Taran's book, its pages scrawled with maps and symbols. "Next sanctuary's marked here," he said, pointing to a distant valley. "Think we'll live that long?" Mira's jaw tightened. "We better,"